So it's exactly 2 o'clock. And
so for 2 more minutes, so we can start right now.
Yep, go ahead, Svetlana. You are the host of this beautiful conference of the St. Petersburg.
Okay, so it's really time to start. Good afternoon, dear friends, dear colleagues. So let's start. My name is Svetlana Ivanova, and I'm the moderator of St. Petersburg Tourism Forum, together with Michael Shamshidov. I'm also the chairperson of St. Petersburg Professional Tour Guide Association. And so I'm very happy that you've joined our conference, Safety and Service, Guiding in the New Normal. You know, this year was really a catastrophe for tourism industry all over the world because of pandemic. But tourism can't just die, and that's it, because people want to travel, they love to travel. And so the main idea, the main goal of our conference is to find out the proper solution. So what can we do to recover? What should be done to save the next season? So we'll combine all these ideas of our experts to have a strategic line. And I think it will be very useful from practical point of view, because today we have professionals from all over the world, and our speakers will share their own opinion. So you can see our conference agenda in chat. And before we start, I kindly remind our panelists that we have limited time. So please, not more than 10 minutes. We also have poll questions in chat, so all the participants can answer and vote and share their opinion. You're also very welcome with your own questions, and we will try to answer. We will probably not be able to answer all the questions, but we'll try our best, and we'll answer them after conference if we'll have no time. And before each speaker, so between speakers, between panelists, we'll have one poll question for everybody. It's anonymous, so please answer to make this conference a true experience for everybody. So thank you for attending. And also I kindly ask everybody to mute their microphones if you're not a speaker, a panelist, just to avoid extra noise. So let's start. And the honor to open our conference goes to Julia Zaykova, the acting head of International and Interregional Project Department of St. Petersburg Committee for Tourism Development. So restarting tourism in St. Petersburg, safe travel SPB program. So Julia, please, your turn.
Thank you, Svetlana. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. On behalf of the Committee for Tourism Development of St. Petersburg, I would like to thank you for organizing this conference and for the invitation. Today, I would like to talk about our special marketing program, Safe Travel SPB. And we know that St. Petersburg is an internationally recognized tourism center. Last year, more than 10 million people visited St. Petersburg, and among them 5 million were foreigners. We launched the pilot project of free electronic visa, and of course we expected much more from this year, but the COVID pandemic changed everything. We know that tourism is a key pillar not only for economics, but for the conversation between people, between cultures, regions and states. So nowadays we have to do our best to rebuild the tourism sector and to restart tourism itself. And now I would like to show you a small presentation. Just a second. Okay, let's go. St. Petersburg is one of the most comfortable and safe tourism destinations in Russia, Europe, and in the world. And this summer, St. Petersburg joined the World Safe Tourism movement, becoming the first city in Russia which developed and offered its solutions for safe stay in the city. We elaborated special safety standards for tourism organizations and related areas and harmonized them with the federal authorities. One of the priorities for us today is an implementation of a special marketing program, Safe Travels SPB. Key players of city tourism industry receive a special Safe Travels SPB stamp, recognizing them as organizations which strictly follow international safety, health, and hygiene standards. For tourists, this stamp is a guarantee that services provided by such organizations meet the requirements of international standards. For city organizations, it is an opportunity to promote consumers' confidence and to join St. Petersburg Hospitality Marketing Program, which is aimed at promoting St. Petersburg as a safe tourism destination. There are several categories of participants of the program. Hotels, restaurants, tour operators and travel agents, tourist information centers, shopping malls, museums, conference venues, and of course tour guides. The list of participants is available on the official City Tourist website, visit petersburg.ru. In order to get a Safe Travels SPB mark, companies should apply for the membership through their own accounts on the special website and confirm that they comply with all safety standards. Then they get their unique QR code with Safe Travels stamp and place it on websites, in offices, in advertising materials, etc. The partners of the program are more than 10 public organizations and tourism associations of St. Petersburg, including St. Petersburg Professional Tour Guides Association and St. Petersburg Association of Chinese Language Guides. So we believe that it's imperative to work closely with the private sector and public organizations in the sphere of tourism to get global tourism moving again, because tourism can become a platform for the global recovery today. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. So we can see that it was really interesting, and our government tries its best to improve the situation in the city and to attract tourists back to the city. So, dear friends, you can see our first poll question, so you can answer. What is the most important decision criteria for tourists to travel again? So what is your opinion? So once again, you can see that this question is anonymous, so please take your time and vote. And it is a great honor for all of us that the largest and the most famous museum in Russia joined us, the State Hermitage. So Olga Arkhipova, PhD and the head of group visits and events department of the museum. Thank you very much for joining our conference. So we really appreciate. So the Hermitage Museum 2020, Poesy and Prose. So please.
Is it okay? Hello to everybody. Thank you very much, the organizers. Usually, I don't know, maybe fortunately or unfortunately, the museums are very low in the list of touristic attractions. After certainly transport, after hotels, restaurants, some amusement, and all of that. Because for me, it's certainly my pleasure and honor to present the Hermitage Museum, one of the world's largest and, frankly speaking, one of the world's best art museums, the symbol of Russian state, and certainly one of the first-rate touristic attractions. Hermitage is really gorgeous in winter snow, romantic in the time of white nights, and any time, any season, season, it is full of precious artifacts. It's very often associated with the Winter Palace, but in fact, nowadays, its collections house in 10 buildings of the museum, and not all of them are in the city center. Sorry. The museum was certainly very popular. The previous year we had over 4.5 million visitors. Approximately 2,400,000 were the tourists, and 2 million of them came from abroad. Our annual April conference, Museums and Problems of Cultural Tourism, was planned how the museum could accept all these crowds, how avoid overcrowding, and how just to deal with the over-tourism, the words which were very, very popular in the previous period. But you know that in March, all these problems were solved. It was really for the first time in the museum history when it was closed to public. The staff was certainly working, but no public for almost 4 months. Even in the siege of Leningrad, in the course of siege of Leningrad, in the course of the Second World War, the museum was open to public, and there were guided tours. And people came and could see the interior, sometimes just the empty frames of the canvases, but they believed that the real life will return, and it really did. Because these days, the words, the world will never be the same. These words are very, very popular and repeated almost daily, radio, TV, mass media, everywhere. But do you think it's really true? The world changes every second, but values, historical, moral, cultural, they are all preserved. We opened our doors again this year only in mid-July with new rules and many limitations. The visits now are organized due to the health emergency caused by COVID-19 infection, and for a period, the duration of which is still difficult to determine. The first slide results you can see on the slides. They are, to my mind, are very representative. The tours, we were much accused of. Sometimes came to the level of scandal because people had to stay for hours queuing to enter the museum. And now there are very, very few people by the main gates of the Winter Palace just waiting to check their tickets. The opening now hours now also change. We start from 12 and are open up to 21 p.m. from Thursday to Sunday. On Monday, the museum is closed. Tickets are to be booked on the museum official site for a particular time slot and for a particular fixed route. The price now is 500 rubles with no definitions to residents and non-residents. When booking a ticket, now a person has to choose a 2-hour time slot, which starts every 30 minutes, and an available fixed route. The tickets, I've told you, are checked by the main gate, and after it, masks are obligatory for visitors and masks and gloves for the staff. Still, we ask to maintain the safety distance of 1.5 meters, and you can see the marks here on the slide in the large courtyard of the Winter Palace. The museum, the main museum complex and general staff building visit was planned for 2 hours, but now there are so few people inside that people can stay as much time as they want. Yeah. You can see the marks both in the large courtyard and in the interiors, just by the main lobby of the Winter Palace. The thing is, which is not discussable, is to follow one of the fixed rules. Movement around the hall is strictly one way to avoid intersecting streams of people from opposite directions. This is a strong demand of medical services. This is the slides demonstrate a very difference before and after. The most popular rooms of the museum, the Rembrandt room, the Peacock, which became one of the symbols of the museum, the picture gallery, they were overflowed and now they are almost empty. Only representatives of the staff you can see here, but certainly there are still few people who has come. I've taken the figures today morning. In September, there were 1,300 foreign visitors accepted by the museum. 100. The previous year we had up to 17,000 foreign visitors a day. This is certainly a catastrophe, both for the people who can't come and certainly for us. In August, we also restored cooperation with touristic company, which is very important certainly. And city guides now are allowed to make guided tours, also following all regulations, including the limited number of people in a group. Now only 5 in one group can be taken to see the museum. And one of the guides, the museum guides, you can also see here on one of the slides. The only thing I'd like to stress that everybody planning a visit should keep in mind that we have done our best to organize it in the best and safest conditions. Let me also to ensure you that even in the case of pandemic, the visit to the Hermitage Museum is completely safe, and certainly a bonus is a chance to have a lifetime event to meet the museum personally. Certainly, we are dreaming of time with much more people, and we are ready to meet them, and we are dreaming of much less limitations in our work. Thank you. Certainly, it was very short, because I was asked to be short both in the slides and in speech. But you know that devil is in the details. That's why I'm open to all the questions, if not today at the end of our presentations, but almost anytime you like, you can connect me with the email. And I certainly hope to meet you, the members of the conference, once in my beautiful office in the Winter Palace, on the ground floor of the Winter Palace, for a cup of coffee. You are always invited to the museum, and we are always happy to meet you here.
Thank you very much, Olga. So we can see that COVID crisis affected not only private business, but museums as well, even that big and well known as the State Hermitage. So we hope that we'll overcome it as soon as possible. So we won't back to the normal life, of course. So dear friends, you can see our poll question number 2. And please answer what will make tourists feel safe and secure while they're visiting a museum. So you can choose your version or several ones. And now I think it's time to listen to our foreign panelists. We're very happy that Helmut Mochel from Germany is with us. Helmut is the director of Eurasia Trains and Tours, so he knows Russian market pretty well. And he will tell us about health and safety protocols and Eurasia trains in a new normal. So please. Helmut.
Good afternoon, everybody. So let me just check that the slides are on your screen. So my name is Helmut Mochel. I'm the founder, owner, and director of Eurasia Trains and Tours. We are a train operator specialized in private train travel. We are mainly doing trains in the area of the Russian Federation, the Central Asia, some parts of Europe. We went even into places like Turkey and Iran. So we are working on quite a wide field with our private train operations. The longest journey which we are doing is, of course, the Trans-Siberian Railway, which is starting in Moscow and going all the way to Vladivostok or into Mongolia to the capital Ulaanbaatar. We have in summer during the period of COVID worked on a very detailed program how we can ensure that our guests are safe and have a healthy environment when they are traveling on our train. But as we are providing the services not only in the train, on the train, but also from the arrival at the airport in Moscow until the departure from the airport in Ulaanbaatar or Vladivostok, we had a look into all the touch points which a tourist is affected from and made some plans how we are going to handle this in order to have our guests in safety. Now, the first what I want to point out is that it is very important to understand there are 3 basic rules which in the period of COVID-19 or in the post-COVID until in 2-3 years we will hopefully have vaccines available in a large scale all over the world. We have to keep social distance, we have to wear face masks, and we have to keep an eye on the hygiene rules which are now implemented all over the world. And this is what we remind everybody who is joining on our tours. And what else are we doing and what are we expecting from our guests? Because the guests themselves can do also something to contribute to a healthy and clean situation on our tours. First of all, upon arrival in Moscow, we will greet them with a welcome kit, which includes some sanitizer gel, sanitizer spray, hand gloves, masks in a large number for all the days of the journey. Second, when they arrive, we will do a health screening, which means that will be a form like health declaration. We will take as masterpieces the forms which are used by the cruise lines, which are starting their operations right now. We will ask very detailed what people were doing and where they stayed 30 days before the tour is starting. And we will ask them about any knowledge of contacts with corona-infected people. Then we anticipate that until next year, we hopefully hope that we can start operations again next year in summer. We anticipate that it has been established until that time that all airlines worldwide will request a corona test, negative test, of course, as a condition to board an airplane. In other words, if our guests from North America, from Europe, from Asia, from wherever in the world they are coming, will arrive in Moscow or will arrive in Beijing at one of the points of starting of the tour, they have a negative test in hand, which is not more than 3 or 4 days old. But we know at the same time that a test or a negative test is just a view in this particular second or minute when the person is tested. And even 1 hour later, it can happen that he gets an infection by some reason nobody knows. We will invite our guests to take a test on arrival, on the first day of arrival. We will organize that for our guests, and that will make sure that we have hopefully negative tests shown by our guests for which have a time difference between themselves of something like 3, 4, 5 days. We continue with health and safety screening regarding all our staff. So first of all, they will get a very detailed training. And that means regarding the train staff, we are talking not only about the guides. We have a tour director, we have tour escorts, we have local guides, but also we are talking about the cabin attendants in the sleeping cars. We are talking about the technical staff on the train, the kitchen staff, the service staff in the dining area. And all of those need a health declaration, a health screening, which we will do. And they will have to provide a negative COVID-19 test a day before the journey done. It will be done. We will all get this all organized on behalf or for all the staff and make sure that they will be all tested. But that is not enough. As we know, we need to do it on a regular basis. That's why we are going in the middle of the tour, which is in Irkutsk, another test, and then the train goes to Ulaanbaatar or to Vladivostok, and there will be in an interval of 1 week a test being done to see immediately if something is going wrong, that we can exclude this staff from the train. I mentioned already the health and safety training that will be done next year in springtime. That will be done immediately before every tour starting once more to bring everybody back to the latest knowledge how to deal in this COVID-19 period. And now comes the train itself and the passengers of the train on the train. We will do what all the railways of the world started to do, at least most of them really did it. Deep cleaning, total disinfection with new technology, which was not used before. This is a mandatory thing which we are going to do before every tour. And then we have a very special issue with the trains, because, and that is not referring just our train, that is regarding every train on the world. Trains have limited space. Trains are risky in terms of not keeping the social distance. So we were considering what can we do in order to avoid crowding on the train, in order to avoid too many people too close to each other. The result is that we are asking our passengers while staying in the sleeping cars to stay inside their cabins. When they are going to the restaurant and to the lounge area, which is in the center of the train, our tour escorts will invite them one by one in order not to have the situation that suddenly at the same time 20 guests from 10 cabins are jumping out of their cabins and they are crowding in the corridors on the way to the restaurant. In the restaurant itself, we basically will use tables for two people only. So to have some more distance between the guests in the restaurant car. That means they will basically sit on the windows, and in between there will be two places on each table not used. The small buffet which we had in the center of the restaurant car for breakfast will not be existing anymore, like buffets in hotels are disappearing. We will go back to what we did earlier many years ago, personal service, table service, plate service to every person exactly. Now, staying in hotels. In hotels, here we have a little bit an easier task than on the train because the space is usually much larger. The criteria for selecting the hotels are, we are looking for which hotel, and this will be mainly the chains, the international chains, providing enhanced cleaning and disinfection protocols, where they are strictly advising their staff to wear masks, where they are looking into the issue of keeping maintenance of social distance, make sure that not, for example, not too many people are crowding in the lifts. We will organize a touchless check-in so that the groups, when they arrive in their hotels, will not have to touch anything, but everything is done and just the keys are ready. We will provide the hotels with the passport copies and scans and everything before in advance. Restaurants. In the restaurants, of course, we will also look into the cleaning and disinfection protocols. This is partly maybe a challenge because we noticed that when we negotiated with the restaurants, we are usually using, not all of them really understanding what tourists from foreign countries want. They have heard something, they're very open to take care of this, but in reality, there are the things a little bit going different. And this means we will have a lot of continuing negotiations before the season will be ready to start. In any case, what we are doing will be, we are separating our groups into private rooms, and we will have social distance between the tables so that this criteria will also be taken care of. Sightseeing, buses and museums. So about the museums, we have already heard all the measures which are implemented by Hermitage. We will select the museums which will be included into the program according to their ability to guarantee no crowds and to guarantee us that we can book time slots which are either exclusively for our guests or exclusively in the way that there are other guests in the same museum at the same time, but they are not in the same rooms. What is concerning the sightseeing excursions, first of all, in order to avoid that the guests are crowding around the tour guide, speaking loud, trying to give some information to the guests. Every guest will receive at the airport on arrival earphones, and our tour escorts will be able to communicate with guests on even a larger distance. So that also will help to keep people in safety distance. Buses we will use with double number of seats than the guests who will use it. That means usually we are aiming at groups of not more than 15 to maximum 20. That means we are aiming at buses of 40, 44, 48 seats. And we are making it mandatory to all our local partners that the bus drivers and the local guides will have their face masks, whenever necessary, also gloves, and they will have health screenings of these people before working with our guests. Finally, guests have to fly sometimes. In our case, it's just the short 2-hour flight between Ulaanbaatar and Beijing if they're going on this routing. And also they have to fly, of course, into Moscow and back from Ulaanbaatar or Vladivostok or from Beijing. We anticipate that until the time we are reopening our operations, touchless check-in will be a standard. Wearing face masks by staff will be a standard. Wearing face masks on the flights and in airports by the passengers will be a standard. Onboard service, we have to see what's going on. At the moment, there are various models on testing. What is cleaning and disinfection concept on the airlines, on the airplanes? I think they are already in quite well-established situations. Many guests are asking us, what about the middle seat? Can we book an empty middle seat so that 2 of us are sitting in one row? That is something we are following and giving recommendations. So I thank you very much for your attention. Just to summarize, what we did is we were reading and evaluating and talking with many institutions, and we collected hundreds of pages of concepts done by WTO, by IATA, by airlines, by airports, by cruise lines, railway associations, UIC, OSCD, hotel chains, and finally also WTTC, which is issuing that health and safety stamp, which is used by St. Petersburg city government. What you were seeing now is that it is important for an operator to look not only into his product, which is the train in our case, but also in everything which is around, in all kinds of services which can happen during a journey. And that is a major job which needs cooperation and collaboration between all stakeholders participating to provide an excellent service to the guests. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you for your audience.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Helmut. It sounds very optimistic that foreign companies are ready to start and they're working on safety protocols and measurements. We'll hope that the next season will happen and our clients will visit Russia as they did the year before. So another question we have to our audience: so should guides and service staff get the COVID tests? If yes, so how often? And speaking about the preliminary work, I want to introduce Sjannie Hulsman from Netherlands, MBA owner and co-founder of EastguidesWest, and which is much more important, Sjannie is one of co-organizers of this event. So let me thank you very much for your help and cooperation. And please tell us about international safety and service standards for local tour guides.
Unmute. So, can you hear me? Welcome, everybody. Привет. I will end the poll so that you can see my screen. And, I'm sorry about this. And the poll, so here I am. Can you hear me? Everybody, is it okay to hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I have been thinking about international safety and service standards for local tour guides. EastguidesWest is training and consulting tour guides just from different destinations. And very often we find out about the linking pin, who is the tour guides. So in preparation, I have been calling many outbound and inbound tour operators we've worked with, but also just randomly, to have a reality check on how good the tour guide is. And this is in Europe, in the United States, in the Caucasus, and also in Central Asia. So I had a few very big ones, and they have for cruising ships, for land tours, about between 50 and 150 guides that they give work. And very often I got from the owners of those companies that they said about 5 to 7% is really, really excellent. I call them in the middle of the night and I will sleep quietly on because I know it will be good. Including this 5 to 7% excellent, they say 30% of the tour guides is really good. And so I am okay with it. I know it will be good. But that means that there is 2/3 of the guides that are, as some stated, a prey to God or a wild guess. This is before COVID. And now it means for us as tour guides, I'm a tour cruise director and a tour director myself. And we train really for local employability, but it means that globally, if the tour director, the tour guide, who's on the train, who's in the museum, in the Hermitage, wherever, is a serious chance to have a great experience or a great quality and safety, or it's a real threat. If somebody is not well prepared, not well versed, then we have to conclude that the tour operator who sells the product does not control the end product. The tour guide who's standing in front of the guest is having, and you see to the right, you see that there is a little heart with the paying guest and the tour guide. You can see that the tour guide has a link to the outbound tour operator, to the inbound tour operator, and to the most important person in our value chain, that is our guest. We work to please and give the guests experiences that they reminder, that they want to take home. So the tour guide is in all cases the linking pin, because the guests very often don't see the tour operator, whether they are outbound or inbound. So quality assurance and safety and service now, especially with COVID, is very important. And now I have a very big question, because the safety standards, I really applaud them. They are really very good, but there is very little for the tour guide at location, or also the tour guide wherever you are. In the WTTC, there is in only a very few limited sectors of tourism a remark that guest-facing staff should be trained and prepared to answer questions and resolve the challenges. But now I've put up some pictures from my own experiences and from my own job as well. To the left, you see public toilets. Safety and security standards for health over there, doubtful. Who is going to train them and how? Then we have the off-road kings. I just took them because I traveled with them and they were really fun. But this is a tour guide entrepreneur. It's a small little company that has four-wheel drives. And the four-wheel drives, how are they going to use them? Are there 4 people in the car? Are there only a driver and 1 guest, and there are 4 drivers with 1 guest to form a little group? How are they deep cleaning? Then on a cruise, you see the English embankment in St. Petersburg last year. Now, this was a fabulous cruise, 80 people on board, mostly Americans. Are those cruise ships now regarded by the inhabitants of those cities as floating dangers? Are those people going to be going out? We have guide supplying companies over there, great company we always work with. I spoke to him as well in St. Petersburg. How are we going to deal with that? Because just speaking English or German or Spanish doesn't mean you're a guide. And if the ship has to be looking for all the safety and service standards, that is an easy thing to do. But it's much more difficult to be in the country or in the town to make sure everything is still according to the standards. Cultural interaction to the right, this is also in Russia. And this is the person we look at the back is a guide. She's inviting guests, and the people making the music are the performers. This is a very small barn-like situation where also a small kitchen is. This is very important to think about guest-facing staff. Who is it? How to train them? I think personally that it's very important that tour operators and guides really know about these situations and how to improve the safety and service standards if that is necessary, because most of them are just totally fun. And then you have a home-hosted lunch in the bottom. And a home-hosted lunch, we are preparing ourselves. It was a fabulous event, totally fabulous, but we're sitting on the floor and these people are out in the country. These are the experiences that people want. Most of the real experience, the touching experiences are out in the country. And if you want to have communities involved and benefit from tourism, it is important that they are aware of the standards, that they are sensibilized about what the foreign guest wants, because it's not what we want to do for the guest. It is what the guests understand as this is done to keep us safe and have an excellent service. And then something everybody always wants to do is, of course, a group picture. Now look at this group picture. It was with on Helmut's trains when we were training there. But this is a lot of people. If they all have to be 1.5 meters apart from each other, a simple thing like a group picture has to be thought over and over again, because we're not sure whether we can only do bubble pictures or whether we can have different ways, like you have drones to fly over the people and then they can all wave, which we did already on the ship. It is possible. Then you have a fabulous, great big picture, but safety and service standards in even the simplest things like group pictures are very, very important to think through. So I also was asked to be very short. The nexus for me to safety and service, and if you do not know what nexus means, it's really like in the middle of the whole operations, is the guide. And the new normal guiding for me as a guide trainer, but also as an active tour director, is, are we going to be a necessity or are we going to be a luxury for travelers? That people are going to see like, oh, it's too expensive for me to fly long distance. It is too expensive to travel with a guide. Or is it a requirement from either the tour operator or the destination to say like, well, you have to walk with a guide. In Iran, that's already for years the case. You're not allowed to travel without guides. And so that is for other reasons, but for safety and service, it is very important to know how to travel. And the guide makes or breaks the tour in many ways. Safety and service, if the guide is precise, gives you daily instructions all the time, tells you where you're going, how many masks you need, whether you go in a few groups or whether you go by yourself and explore. It also makes or breaks the tour for the tour operator who has very carefully prepared this tour. Because if the guide doesn't really understand the tour, it can also harm the experience of the guests. And what we are doing from a tour guide perspective is really, we serve on the left, as you can see in the little heart again, we serve the outbound tour operator. We want to provide what he promised to the guests, including now COVID-19 proof situations. On the other hand, the inbound tour operator very often hires the guides and pays the guides, so we lean a little bit to the one who's feeding us with the money that they're paying. And the missing link at the moment in the value chain, because as a tour guide and as in the tourism industry, we all know it can be a fabulous experience, but when there's only one link missing, then it all falls apart. And now we have the missing link is our paying guest, and that had made us kneel down. All of us, we are on our knees on more or less ground zero, because we have no income, none of us, big company, small company, tour guide, anybody. But I think, and I would hope if we can say that a tour guide and a tour operator could benefit each other much better if they are working like partners. And in cooperation, it is possible to successfully implement the safety and service rules and regulations so that the guests want to travel again, because the guests need a kind of clarity. They are now confused with all the rules and all the destinations closing down, red, yellow code, whatever code. So I think for even business development, the guide is at location. They can tell, okay, this is a difficult situation there. How can we work together? So in my opinion, it's the teamwork that answers the question to safety and service and puts the responsibility at a very high spot for the tour guide, because the guide is the one who's facing the guest directly. And now we need to support tour guides, because many of them are not having COVID, but are suffering from almost starving or leaving their houses and so on. So this is a little bit my story. I think it's really teamwork, operating and guiding goes together, and only with that sensibilized feeling we can manage to successfully travel again and give the guests a great experience. So the next poll question, because I'm doing the next poll questions also, is actually, if I may say this, who's responsible for the training of guides about healthy and safety standards? And I give over back to Svetlana. Thank you very much.
Okay, many thanks, Sjannie. So right now we know that guides training in Europe is in good hands, so our guests can expect an excellent service. And guides, they are really the nexus of safety and service, as you said. And now I think it's time to invite a tour guide and a tour leader, Sónia Santos from Portugal. So she's a tour leader from Abreu company. the oldest and I assume the largest in Portugal. So Sónia works in Europe and in Russia, so she is ready to tell us about the new safety standards in European and Russian tours and about the role of professional skills of a tour leader in a new normal. So please, Sónia.
Hello, as we say in Portugal, boa tarde means good afternoon. Thanks for the invitation. I'm so glad to be with you today. And so actually I'm a tour guide, 24 years time, and I work for Abreu, but also the Lisbon Tourism Board and other identities. And I have to say to you that in Portugal, definitely tourism is really important. Represents 14.6% of our GDP. So tourism is something that we have to face as a big industry for the country. Mainly if we are referring to import, but also in what is export, we have courses, we have training, and that's why that the Portuguese Tourism Board last June promoted a big let's say stamp for clean and safe measures. And these stamps that they started to promote and to train, they did it with restaurants, with hotel accommodation, with travel agencies, with tour operators, with guides. So everyone that is involved in the tourism activity in Portugal had this train. So to, for instance, answer the Dutch lady just before me, Sjannie. So here in Portugal, the government did that. So they had the measures, they gave us the tools, let's say, to face this new reality, COVID-19. And it was important for us, and we have these stamps, these rules, all these ideas that we have to keep equal to face this new reality. And Abreu is not only the biggest company in Portugal, but is the oldest company in the world, because started with cargo by the time of Thomas Cook, but Abreu started in 1840. And so nowadays is the oldest company in what is tourism referring. And Abreu actually next year, because obviously this year is more or less done in what was tourism. Next year, Abreu is preventing small groups. So they are already selling small groups experience. So meaning that we are already preparing families to travel together, or groups of friends up to a maximum of 12 people to be more comfortable. But as for instance, Miss Olga told us that Hermitage is going to do a 5-people group. Well, I believe that with the months coming, things will change, because unfortunately, in my opinion, we will not have a vaccine at all, in my opinion. And so we have to, we people, we are the ones to be responsible for our acts. And so we have to start to face this new normal as the normal situation. So if we have to go on planes and we are seated side by side, as well in other restaurants, etc., of course with measures, normally 2 meters, but still like these, we will have to be able to live in this new normal. And so small groups, of course, they will be the starting point, but I believe that because of the break-even of the companies, or prices will double, or will become the triple, or we have to have everyone traveling to, once again, that we need these, the traveling. I believe that we will have to be, each one of us has to be responsible for safety measures, security, distance, social distance, hygiene, etc. But the guide, and I'm a tour guide and I'm a tour director, and in Portugal, like a tour guide, a local tour guide, we are prepared to give all the briefing to clients. So before the trip, and of course, before traveling, they will have to have the COVID test, and they will have already all the information. But day by day, it's really important and mandatory that the guide, so me and my colleagues, we will do always a briefing, a big one, before the day starts. And so like these, and like my colleague from Netherlands said, we will have to have masks, to have the earphones. So each one with earphones, with individual kits. And of course, we will be the ones ensuring that the rules are there to be completely followed. So in restaurants, in museums, we'll have to be more time, even more than we were before, but we have to be more careful about timing, about our entrance, one way, if it is possible, one way entrance and visit of museums. And by the way, Miss Olga, I believe that you are generous and humble, because in my opinion, Hermitage is not only one of the best museums in the world, but the best museum in the world. And I visit quite a lot around the world. So it's a beautiful museum that I already feel so that, we say that in Portugal, saying that we miss a lot something. So I miss already St. Petersburg, and not all the crowds, because it was crowded always, but it's a beautiful museum. So in my opinion, guides, before the visit, we will have always to do the briefings. During the visit, we will be along with our normally local guide. We will be always connected and following the rules, strictly the rules, and the clients, they know that, because they want to be safe and they want to have a very nice experience. So they will cooperate also with that. And after the tour finishes, so we have also to be able to manage with the earphones. Of course, the bus is also an issue, but if, since 53-seat bus will be occupied maximum by 20 people, it's possible to make 2 entrances, and whenever leaving the bus, also the back door, the front door, fixing also, arranging the seats, so they will have a seat that is always for them. And of course, drivers have also here in Portugal the same, because drivers is also important. It's one of the fundamental pieces on a bus. So they also have to clean and to ensure that the measures are and will be followed through the tour and at the end of the tour. And so at the end of the tour, we want our clients to have top experience and to say that I want to travel again, and I want to travel with a company, and I want to do it with people that know what they are up for, and people that know the rules, and that's passed on to us the always a safety feeling. And this is really important for clients. And I believe that Abreu, that works a lot, it's the main company bringing Brazilian people to Europe. We can say that we are the main importers of Brazilian people. They, the majority of the times, they say it was a pleasure to travel with you because we felt safe all the times and during the whole experience. So we want them to have beautiful experience, but with safety. I don't have any PowerPoint to show you because it was more a conversation, and I wanted to refer at least that in Portugal, and I believe in many other countries like Italy, France, and of course, I believe Netherlands, that tourism is also important, that everyone is trying to do their best to bring tourists back again. And this year, during summertime in Portugal, well, we still have more or less summer, it's 25 degrees Celsius, but, and we still have beach and lots of surfers. And I saw Danish, Dutch, so people from Netherlands, from Norway a lot, from Switzerland, France, of course Spain, lots of people traveling and visiting us. And everyone said, we feel safe here. Of course, they were using masks. Outside on the streets, we are not obliged. It's not mandatory to use masks, but people, they respect a lot the safety measures. And it was still an individual tourism, so it was more families and friends traveling together. But we felt September already, I would say late August, beginning of September, we saw already big, not big crowds, but once again tourists coming to Portugal, mainly due to the corridors to England that opened the corridor, so the flight corridor, and so we had a lot of foreigner people in the Algarve, but also Lisbon area. I'm glad to be with you once again today, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thanks a lot. Obrigada.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Sónia. It was really very interesting and valuable from practical point of view. And we can see that the guide is really in the center of guest experience, and that's the real nexus of safety and service. And we have to make it understandable to everybody. So speaking about this 5 people in the group, unfortunately, it's a governmental requirement. It's not an idea of this or that museum. So that's a fact. So we hope that up to next season, it will be enlarged up to 10 or probably 15 people. And my dears, we have one more question. So how important for tourists is international certification on health and safety standards? So please answer, what do you think? And right now I invite my colleague, Masha, Akkaya, tour guide and tour leader, the board member of St. Petersburg Professional Tour Guides Association. So that will be a guide's perception, new safety standards, expectation versus reality. So please.
Thank you, Svetlana. Hello, everyone. And as a person from the field, I also don't have any PowerPoint presentation because we're the, people from real life. I just want to say hello to everyone. And on behalf of our association as a hosting party, I would like to one more time thank you all for joining our event. We can see our event is pretty popular. And I'm going to speak about what guides think of coming back from pandemic disaster. The situation obviously doesn't look too good for us, for guides, especially here in St. Petersburg. Most of my colleagues have lost their jobs in guiding and are looking for new ones. And there's now a serious threat of losing the most enthusiastic and qualified and experienced part of our guiding community, as many are on the brink of quitting the profession for good. So we are the ones who are really desperate. And the way we see it, we think that the recovery of our guiding jobs and travel industry on the whole in St. Petersburg is dependent on 2 things. You need to convince the government and you need to convince the client. Convincing the government is about getting a permission to work, to be allowed to work at all. And we also need to convince customers of, that we're compliant with all safety requirements in order to have the actual job. And these are 2 audiences that are somewhat different. You already know that St. Petersburg has implemented the Safe Travels program. And it's actually a very thorough certification process which provides a comprehensive roadmap for what companies and guides must have in place to ensure the safety of their clients and the safety of themselves. And, I want to compliment St. Petersburg tourism authorities, and I don't do it too often, but they have established a dedicated communication channel by social media where professional staff helps applicants through every step of the process, nearly 24/7. They answer questions, they deliver information, they come back with solutions, and they're immensely helpful. As a result, by the time you are awarded your precious safety label, this QR code, you have seamlessly received a comprehensive training in everything you need to know and do to ensure safe operation. Thus, the government ensures that everyone who works in the market is prepared for the new normal. And the program covers all legal entities. Without this QR code, you are not allowed to operate at all. But since most guides are private individuals and they sign a contract for each job, they're not required to have a QR code of their own. They must use the QR codes of the current employers, so the company they work with on a particular group or client. Thus, it becomes the employer's responsibility to properly instruct the guides and make sure that they follow all requirements. And you can see that here in St. Petersburg, you know, as tourism is a pretty big part of our GDP, it's responsible for at least 5%, as far as I remember the most recent statistics. The government takes it seriously, so we do want visitors to come back. Well, convincing the government that we work safely is just about being permitted to work, but convincing the client is far more important. And we've all spoken much about that because clients are actually people who create our jobs. And obviously, in planning for the new normal, tour operators and guides together should reevaluate each stage of the customer journey, and we will have to make changes to our usual practices, and this is already happening, and quite a few people have talked about that before me. All these itinerary modifications, you know, I think, yeah, we should think more about walking tours, less coach time, less museum time, spacing out groups and people in groups, making group sizes smaller. They have mentioned already, you know, promoting people to travel in families and to travel with their friends, promoting social distancing and wireless systems. All this will be necessary to give customers confidence that their health and safety always remain our top priority and it's safe to come. But we've been keeping talking about how we are prepared. And what about our clients? What about the customers? We all know that clients themselves are often quite careless, reckless, and inconsistent. They want guarantees, but they don't want to commit themselves. You know, they're on vacation. And of course, we can't guarantee that nothing will happen. We can only guarantee that we've done everything possible to prevent bad things from happening. But people are tired. You look around, people are tired of isolation. They're tired of being afraid. You know, this pandemic is going on for quite a long time now. People are tired of feeling uncomfortable, and masks and gloves are uncomfortable. Are clients going to stick to the new rules? People do look for guarantees and assurances. They want somebody to tell them that everything will be okay. And they will ask these questions and they will try to make sure. They will call their agents at 3 o'clock in the morning with more and more questions. But then will they really observe the rules? Will they observe all these restrictions? Will they be happier to travel under such circumstances?
Colleagues, do you hear me? We don't hear.
Masha's voice is lost.
Masha,
Yeah. Now it's okay.
are you back again, Masha?
Internet, it happens.
It looks like it's on Masha's internet.
Yeah, so I have an extra poll. I can put in an extra poll.
And probably Masha will come back to us.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What
Here we
happened?
are. There was some connection problems, but please go on.
Where did I fall out? Okay, I don't hear you now. Is it me or you?
Yes, Masha, you were there where you said, will the guests really observe all the rules and regulations, that they're so tired?
Oh, that's true. Well, okay, so it was just momentarily. I was afraid that I missed something. Yeah, but this is what we see, and I just want to say that we're now providing free walking tours to medical staff in St. Petersburg, people who deal with COVID directly. And these doctors show up without masks. So people are tired of regulations and restrictions. And you expect doctors to be the guys who really understand. But if they don't wear masks, what will we expect from, so to say, ordinary people, Because we tell them all the time, we remind them, we call them. We show up in masks with thermometers, with gloves and everything, but they just want to, break free from everything. And this is the other kind of side of the same partnership story. We work for them, but they just want to relax very often. And also, what about guides? Because we are the ones in direct interaction, face to face. We are the ones who risk the most. Protection or no protection, we are the ones who have to deal with immediate issues and immediate problems. And when a customer is sick, we know what to do. But when a guide is sick, the guide loses job, loses income for the guide and for the families. And this is what we are concerned about. And this is what few people think about, but guides themselves. We are sort of stuck in between. But we're ready. We want our jobs back. We are beautifully trained, we're experienced, we're hungry. And we do hope that season 2021 will happen. And I think all of us here, we will do our best for 2021 to actually happen. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to speak with people who understand.
Thank you,
Thanks so much.
Masha. Thank you very much. So everybody can see that guys in St. Petersburg are really ready to provide an excellent service. And we are in close cooperation with tourism authorities, with museums, tour companies. So this year was really a hard one, and we are waiting for the next season. Even if it will be a challenge with the new safety rules, so we are ready to that. And now we have one more poll question. Please have a look. Which measures should be taken to ensure that tourists follow COVID rules? So that is one of the most important things nowadays. Who is responsible and liable for this? And now I invite Douglas Grimes, the president of Mir Corporation from USA. We know it's very, very early in Seattle now, so we appreciate you're with us. So please, so your report is meeting the expectation from a foreign tour operator.
Yes, well, thank you all. And yes, it is very early in Seattle right now. Thank you for inviting me to take part. And thank you for the other speakers. You guys made a lot of very good points, and a lot of some of the points which I had maybe thought I was going to cover, but that's okay. I think I also don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but can provide kind of my insight. We are a tour operator, both outbound, and actually we are also an inbound tour operator. We have local offices in 6 places, and it has been a difficult year, not just losing the business, but a lot of difficult conversations with clients and rebooking and providing some hope for next year. And it's been a very unpredictable time. And even though things may be different, very different, 3 or 6 months from now, or even a year from now, we have to, as a tour operator, plan on what we have right now. And and we're already being asked for protocols and how things will be run on the ground for when Russia reopens. So there's going to be like a period in between now and when things are back to normal, but we have to assume that COVID-19 will still be a factor in 2021 for all the year, pretty much. Sort of in context of tourism in general, and there are 2 sort of major components that are key to attracting the American market during this crisis. And the first, which a lot of you have touched on, is the health and safety protocols. And the second is flexibility, or gibkis, as we used to say. You know, so we have to plan and have thought and care behind these protocols. We need to think about the whole chain when it comes to hygiene, safety, and well-being of the travelers throughout the process. You know, our expectation as a tour operator is that these procedures are going to be in place, that they're going to be taken seriously, and each step of the way, and that they're going to be followed. And this is already happening. Turkey is also a destination that we sell, and Turkey is already open to US travelers. We actually recently sent a private group there. And beforehand, we provided the clients with a detailed list of the protocols that would be followed on the ground, and would be expected both of them and the on-ground operations throughout the journey. These were discussed with our partner in Turkey in detail. We wrote them out in detail as well and provided them to all the parties, including the clients, who agreed to follow them. And we were also able to tell the travelers, essentially reassure them that the country was taking the protocols seriously, and that there was a lot of steps that were taken to make sure that they are known and followed. Turkey has done a very good job at that. I mean, they have 2 different ministries, you know, certifying all the hotels, all the, you know, transportation companies and things like that. And they're providing these certifications to the tour operators, and the tour operators then, or partners in ground, can provide them to us as an outgoing operator so that we can reassure the clients. And, you know, that was sort of every step of the way during that journey, from the arrival transfer to the driver had been tested, you know, within 14 days of the arrival of the clients. And the partners on the ground had a backup driver in case the driver started to feel any kind of symptoms. They would be replaced, a new driver would take over. This would also go for the guide or tour manager if it was a group. And same with the vehicles, they were, you know, sanitized throughout the journey beforehand, and basically during the day, and so that actually the clients could even see that happening. And which was, I think, an important thing to kind of remember, because the whole sort of process is to get people to feel comfortable. And I have kind of a good example of this because I spoke to a group organizer that last week, which I had a discussion with. She and a friend went to a special hosted dinner at a winery last week, and they were met by the hostess who was wearing a mask, and that took them to their table. The tables were spaced out approximately 3 meters. This was outdoors. There was only 2 people to a table. The waiters also were wearing masks and gloves. They, were careful about changing the plates and keeping their distance. And the chef came out and was also wearing a mask. And basically, this allowed her and her guests to relax and have a good time and enjoy things. And, for the rest of the evening, they went without basically having to worry and think about the problems of COVID-19, and in contrast to that, the next day she went to a restaurant to pick up some to-go food, and people were waiting in line. They weren't spaced very well. Some were not wearing masks, or they were wearing them on their chins. There was no hand sanitizer or wipes around. Basically, the whole experience, made her nervous, and she found herself saying out loud, I'm not going to be coming back here. So, I guess the point is not taking it seriously is going to turn people off, and if they don't feel comfortable enough to enjoy the journey, they will return unhappy, obviously, and tell their friends, and that'll have a negative impact on all of us in the tourism chain. And one thing we kind of have to remember is that the mask is for protecting others and protecting your guests and others around you. It's not so much about protecting you. And as a tour operator, I think Masha made a very good point about the clients themselves and them taking responsibility. And, our plan as a tour operator is that these protocols that we are presenting to the travelers are not going to just be us, saying, hey, this is how things are going to work when you're on the ground, but you are also agreeing to these protocols and signing off on that. And if someone is not following those protocols as a guest, then we, as a tour operator, would expect to hear from the guide or our DMC or tour manager on the ground when this is happening, so that we can all make a decision about what to do with that situation. So, meeting expectations will depend partially on where someone is coming from. What their expectations will be are going to be based on, where they're, what is happening in their home experience. When travelers come to Russia, even if there's a vaccine, there will be expectations that what they have been told by us, the tour operator, and what we have told them to expect based on the protocols that were agreed upon. So, and, the clients will expect those to be evident and followed diligently. And again, so they don't have to worry about it. The second thing I mentioned, flexibility. As a tour operator, we are looking for flexibility on terms like cancellation policy, being able to make changes closer to departure, move dates, refundability, and flexibility on the itinerary execution. We will, you know, kind of need to be mindful of design and minimize, you know, being in crowded places, like has been mentioned. You know, look for, you know, times like starting earlier or starting later, and some kind of thought will have to go into you know, social distancing, you know, dining choices, and some of the other things that were mentioned by Helmut as well. And you know, just like as an example, we, you know, may use a restaurant that we used to use all the time and realize that that restaurant is either too crowded or it's too crowded at 8 p.m. and we're going to set up our dinner at 6 p.m. or have to make other choices. And, you know, that can go for, you know, the guiding program too, and or performances, you know, are there performances available outdoors? And if not, you know, are the theaters that are offering performances, are they using social distancing measures and things like that? So, and, you know, we have to think about, this is their, the client's trip. If their guides meet them wearing a mask and the drivers are wearing masks, and they can see drivers are cleaning the handles off the car several times a day, and they see everyone takes it all seriously, then the clients are going to notice this and, you know, be able to relax and enjoy their trip. You know, their trip, it's theirs, you know. You know, we're all kind of feeling anxious. We're all feeling stir crazy. We all want to be traveling again, especially me. And, you know, we have to realize that the new normal is to follow these extra rules and guidelines. And if we do, and we take them seriously, the travelers will be relaxed and they'll have a great experience. And then they will be selling their experience to their families and friends. And I am looking forward to that, that day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Douglas. So we can see that it might be a sort of disappointment among our guests concerning how the destination is fighting COVID, and at the second time, how they treat business in general. So we hope that all this will be settled. And another poll question we would like you to answer is expectation of tourists. Yeah. So when visiting a destination, which service will be expecting? So what do you think? So please answer this. And I can say that we still have some time for discussion. And the first question we all have to think about, I think, that what is the attitude of guests to requirements of new normal traveling? Are they really ready to obey, to follow the rules, or vice versa, they don't want such an experience and better stay home? I'm speaking not about the fear of being infected, but about that general idea of having rest, having fun, having an enjoyable tour. So I think that it's actually a question to everybody and to our panelists. So there is a fear that many guests will better stay home, not to wear masks and gloves, and, you know, to be controlled all the time. So, and on the other hand, we have other people who want everything to be controlled strictly, and if those people are at the same group, it will be really a disaster. So if you have any ideas, please.
Helmut and Sjan.
You're muted.
Yes, I can see. So everybody should be unmuted now. And if you have a question, please raise your hand so we can control the discussion and not everybody speaking immediately. So welcome for the questions.
So we're happy to answer your questions and probably just your opinion. So please express. That's for all the participants.
Well, we are in continuous communication with our partners around the world, and that's more than 30 countries on almost all continents, excluding Africa. And we see that the questions which we are being asked at the moment, or let's say during the last 6 to 8 weeks, so let's say since July, all the questions we are being asked are mainly focusing on the issue of health and safety. And what will be the situation when the borders are open and they, in theory, they could travel? How will they travel? How safe will they be? And my impression is that we have to distinguish when we are talking about are people interested in travel, yes or no? It depends on about which type of travel we are talking. If we are talking to some domestic weekend tour, that's a different story from a tour to a neighboring country or a close by destination. If you are talking about international tours, long-haul tours, crossing continents or from one continent to another, that's a different story, because that usually takes not only just a couple of days, that takes 2 weeks. Wearing a mask and obeying and following all the rules just on a weekend to see Rome or Paris or London, that can be easily accepted by many. But whether they are ready to go on a 2 weeks tour, let's say from some Asian destination into Russia to go on the Trans-Siberian, I think this is a big question. That is my impression. Anyway, those who are ready to travel, they are clear in mind that they need to follow the rules. Otherwise, they have no chance in getting on an airplane and no chance to enter another country. And I think this is the type of people who is probably more likely to follow these rules. So we would actually, I have understood it from Douglas that Mir is, for example, considering to ask customers to sign to follow certain protocols, and that's exactly what we are going to do. Of course, that includes the question, what's going to happen if somebody will not follow during the journey? This is an open question which will not, needs to be discussed. I see that Douglas.
Yeah, I just would comment on that, and that is, yeah, we are planning to have people basically kind of sign off that they're agreeing to these, you know, protocols. You probably have all been watching the United States is a bit of a mess, so, you know, there is concern from my part too that some people might, you know, get to the place and feel relaxed and not start to sort of relax their own rules and following them. And I do think that there is some concern of that. Maybe not initially, because like you said, Helmut, the people who are going to be stepping up and traveling first are going to be the people who really want to, they really want to be traveling. They're itching. They've, you know, they can't wait to get out there, and they're going to be following the rules because they realize that that is going to allow them to continue to do that. The only other thing I was going to bring up is, you know, we're kind of looking at our client demographic as well. and realizing that initially, at least in 2021, we may be losing a certain percentage of our clientele just based on the upper age group. And so, and that's also a concern with the protocols being followed diligently, because a majority of the clients are more aged, I would say, and that age group is also more vulnerable to this disease or this pandemic. So we have to consider that as well. Thank you. Sanjay, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about the second wave of COVID-19 in Europe and what that means for the cruising business, amongst others, in the Baltic Sea. I do the cruises in the Baltic Sea with an American tour operator, and also I work on river cruises in the summertime. The guess when the cruising industry is starting back again is open. Both my assignees have asked the availability of the entire team. The big question is, who is willing to come back on the ships? That is question number one. Are we still the same colleagues? Second question is, do we still have the same suppliers? Because some of them will not survive, regretfully. And a lot of colleagues will find other jobs or need to address themselves to get other income. The action, however, that we can see as cruise directors is pretty clear. We get the request to give our availability, to sign up, and we have an absolute obligatory training attendancy. Sometimes there were, I've always gone, but sometimes some people said, I'm just on vacation during that. This is a no-go for the cruise directors, as the way I am asked. And so I can only say from the two companies I work for. But the big thing is that they gave us very big instructions already on how the ships are changed and how they are modified during the cruises. And the Baltic Sea, as you can see, it's mostly small ship cruises. It's not big ocean liners. And the river cruises are also different. So as far as they act now, it looks like they're expecting to start the season by the end of March. My gut feeling is a different one. I have the feeling it may start only like in June. Why I say this, I have no scientific information. I have just a feeling that there will still be too much discussion on how many people are the guests indeed booking on the ships and how many guests will be per ship. The information I have been given now is about 2/3 of the ships are going to be filled. And that's about the same, like you can see with the buses. We take a 50-seater for 20 or maximum 20 people. That means half of the revenue. And of course, I think the cruises will be coming back, but maybe there will be only 50% of the amount of people. Or, and that's another discussion, when they say on the river cruises or on the small cruises, there is small groups, like Helmut said in the train as well. We will be walking and working with smaller groups. That would mean we need more guides. Where are the guides going to stay? Are they going to stay in a suite? No. Are they going to be in a single room, which is normally sold to guests? No. Because that's too expensive. We have our own cabins. They are different from the guest cabins. So if I can say, like, when are they coming back? The cruising industry is working so extremely hard as everybody else in the tour operating and in the travel industry. But it is still a guess whether they can really start sailing by the normal season start, which would be in Europe, like mid-March, excuse me. I hope that answered this question.
So I think that, thank you very much. I think that Konstantin Klimenko wanted to ask a question. So can he join us?
Konstantin, you can speak. You can unmute yourself, I guess. Yeah. Can we hear him? Konstantin?
Konstantin, please. You have to unmute yourself. Just press the microphone button. Yeah.
Sorry, no questions.
Yeah.
I'm happy to listen to you.
Okay.
Okay.
No questions.
Okay, excuse us. So we misunderstood your sign. So I have a question. I think one of the key problems we'll face in the next season, what should tour guide do, or I can say be allowed to do, when guests disobey the new rules and regulations? You know, for years, we had like a, like an icon slogan that client is always right. And it's quite hard to say no to a client, especially when it is an individual tour. So of course, if it's one person from, I don't know, from 40, the whole group will say, no, guy, you have to wear a mask, for example. But what should we do when people really disobey? Because in fact, right now, guides have no idea how to stop them. So should it be, I don't know, in some insurance, in tour companies' practice to inform them or wherever? So what do you think about it? It's not only for COVID things and for COVID safety rules. So we always face these problems in the museums, for example. The easy things, please don't touch. And that's it, they just disobey.
What's going to happen if somebody disobeys in the museum and touches something which is not allowed?
You know, usually, unfortunately, the guide has a problem, because according to our rules, the guide is somehow responsible. And, you know, in museum, not everybody speaks English, for example, or Chinese. Yes, so sometimes museum staff, they have no possibility to explain the rules, so it's the responsibility of the guide. So for us, sometimes it is a problem when they disobey, and we don't have any, any instrument to stop them. So, and it seems to us that it used to be explained before they're buying a tour, because usually it happened that, tour operator want to sail and say everything will be for you. Yes, but right now it's time when certain rules to be announced before. That's an important thing. So working with the client before he actually paid for the tour.
I think that's the task, or one of the main tasks in the future for the tour operators. Actually, tour operators have the task already now, or had it before COVID-19, to give all necessary information about, for example, immigration rules or health situation or vaccines which are necessary. And this task to give full information to the customer before he is booking is just extended to the issue of what is necessary in COVID-19 times to follow in order to be according to the rules. And if somebody is not following the rules, then we need to tell the guests in advance what will be the consequences. In other words, if guests are not following, if they are not cooperating, we need to tell them, will we have the right to tell them in the middle of Siberia, we are very sorry, but you are not following the rules. So please leave our group and do whatever you like, but don't continue with this group. I think Olga intended to tell us something what the museum.
Thank you.
side is.
Thank you very much. Svetlana, I'm sorry, but it isn't a new problem and this isn't a new question just associated with COVID-19.
Exactly. Exactly.
In my mind, all the time I work in the museum and I face with samples, very, very special people who don't want to follow the rules. Unfortunately for you, it is certainly usually the high qualified guide, professional guide, can find the way out. So we do if we connect. For example, some time ago in the Hermitage Museum, it is obligatory to leave their coats in the cloakroom. People are not allowed in the museum in the clothes, especially in winter when it is very humid in the city, humid and cold, and people can't bring it all inside the exhibition rooms. I personally had a long talk at the end of which the coat was left in the cloakroom.
Yes.
It is just human connections, nothing more or nothing less. Certainly there are rules everywhere, and if we want to have a comfortable life, we follow the rules. It's my point of view.
Definitely, definitely. And that's what I say, because usually just the guide is responsible for guests following the rules. And we think that they used to be informed, better informed before. So what they should do or what they are not allowed to do. So probably even printed, not just, announcement before in office.
Be sure that if you are open-minded in the museum, nobody will be killed. Nobody will be punished. It's just our usual everyday life.
And colleagues, may I put a penny about individual tourism? Because mainly we are still speaking about big groups. Of course, I understand our two suppliers from United States and Germany are operating with mainly with big groups. However, I know that Mir Corporation is also operating with small groups and individuals as well. Yeah. So what can we say about this type of tourism, which is actually growing last decade very fast? But what is the future of individual travel in a comparison? Of course, we are about all these strict rules and regulations that are easily to be organized now by operators for bigger groups. Yes, but what is your opinion about future development of individual tourism? Organized and not organized. Yes.
Yeah, I just might comment on that. So yeah, we also have been doing private journeys for quite a few years, many years already. Yeah, long time. And I do see that this is going to be a growing segment. I think that this pandemic is going to springboard those private trips, and they will become even more common and more popular. Not just among one or two people or some couple doing a private trip that they've asked to be designed, but like families or a small group of friends, and those kinds of things. So there's a lot of potential there, and I think that is going to be the first sort of wave as well. And like I mentioned, we already had a small family group to Turkey just in the last month, and this is the kind of requests that we are getting. We're getting individual requests and private people who want to go and are willing to do it on their own time and on their own bubble, I guess, as you say. So.
Oh, you create the same bubble for individuals, yeah?
Yes, yeah. I mean, you're doing the private bubble, you know, but you're following the same protocols. You're asking them to also be responsible for those things, and you know, at least for us as a company, because of our specialization in the part of the world that we are doing, our travelers are typically very well-traveled people. And they have been to lots of places, say, before they've decided to make their trip to Russia or to Uzbekistan or the South Caucasus or Mongolia. So they are experienced themselves, you know, so, and they have more traveling experience, and maybe they've decided, okay, now, you know, I can see that, you know, there's other people that go and do their own thing and they go on their own time and their own schedule, and I want to do that too. So.
Okay, thank you. And another point, I have seen in the chat a very good comment about sustainable tourism and the future of sustainable tourism, and I didn't notice that we use sustainable or responsible tourism term today here. Of course, I understand here are the big guys and also tour guides who are not very much caring about sustainable tourism. Usually it's like for some NGO or for some losers, those who are not operating in big numbers, not for those who are in number game in tourism. But anyway, sustainable tourism is coming here, and we see more and more like features of sustainable tourism. And some predictors and gurus now say that tourism will become sustainable, either no tourism at all. So can somebody comment on it? So, and how are you going to implement some elements of sustainability and sustainable tourism? There are certain values of sustainable tourism, yes, proclaimed by UNWTO. Is somebody working with that directions?
Sure. Yeah, we are. We take sustainable tourism very seriously, and had already, as a company, started, you know, implementing things over the last several years. And I do think that that's going to be important going into the future. What exactly that looks like may be changing some, you know, and I think that this pandemic is going to bring, you know, some more of those aspects to the forefront. And, you know, especially if you're, you know, having a, I would say, reduced number of people that are going to be, you know, willing to travel. So, you know, I don't have, I guess, some very specific things to add to that. Maybe someone else does, but yeah, go ahead.
Because thank you, Svetlana. I travel with big groups in ships, 140 in a normal river ship until this year, and 90 in the small ship cruises, and they are actually all very, very much for sustainability. If we, for example, walk in a European city and it's a dirty city, I get always lots of remarks. I don't like this city because there's dirt all over the place. We have lots of questions from guests that are asking us how many plastic and how many pollution is there on the river ships. We visit a Delta Works, as everybody knows, in the Netherlands, where there is the Plastic Soup organization presenting what happens when people throw everything overboard, which is really not done anymore. So I, as a nominee in this sense to speak for the bigger companies that we see in Europe, they definitely all are very aware of that. And for the smaller groups to Central Asia and to Mongolia and so on, people even ask, why can't we not clean up the mountains? And sometimes I do take a bag with me for if people want to clean up. And you have in half an hour, you have all the plastic in another plastic bag and you take it with it. And personally, I think that guests are very much in favor and also curious on this. As EastguidesWest, we work together with the Global Nature Fund, and we have suggested on fam trips to have one day that we also clean up where we walk and enjoy, relax. And everybody likes it. And that's, of course, going together with definitely wearing gloves to keep yourself healthy. It has nothing to do with COVID. It's just because you're picking up dirt. And having a mutual goal together. We want to be there for the community and benefit the community so that the people realizes and is sensibilized for this specific part of tourism. Because what many people from Western point of view tell us, and I do agree myself as well, what is very often gone unnoticed, that your countries, Central Asia, Russia, especially also farther east Russia, they are so absolutely beautiful, so fantastically to visit for Europeans, because you have space, we don't. And that's what people see. And so that's, I think sustainability is a trend for years already and will be speeded up now. And that's at least what I hope. I hope that's also adding something to this.
Thank you. Thank you. I could see one more question in the chat concerning the social distancing in Russia. So it's 1.5 meters at least. So that's what's recommended. And in many places you can find even up to 2 meters. So there was a question concerning all social places, not necessarily cloakrooms. Okay, I think that we had very, very fruitful discussion and we have our final survey. So did you get any new insights during this conference? So we hope to be, practical, informative, and I hope it was really interesting. So please vote. We really want to know. And I hope it will be not the first, not the last our conference, but the first one. And many, many thanks to all our panelists, to all our speakers, to all our attendees who joined us. Thank you very much. So see you soon.
Thank you. And if we didn't manage to answer all questions, please join our WhatsApp group and we can continuously discuss and exchange over there. Because Svetlana, I see a couple of last questions that haven't been answered. If we have 1 minute for this, or we go to WhatsApp group to continue.
And also the results of the poll. I have had a question for the results of the poll. We will send them to you in our email. So you will, all attendees will get the results of the poll as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, speakers.
Thank you.
See you again.
Thank you very much. Come to St. Petersburg and to the Hermitage.
Oh, poll results are here.
Suddenly.
These are some I can share results. And so let me share the results per question.
Sjannie, or maybe it's better to do in email, because now
yes, that will be much more helpful. In emails, people can really check and analyze the questions.
I'm very proud for my colleague Svetlana. She managed to moderate in such a way that everything was according to the schedule, minute to minute. Yes. So let's follow the schedule and see you next time.
Thank you.
Everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.